What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today, we're going over Digital Daily number 24 and 25 since I missed yesterday. I apologize for that. I've been feeling a little bit under the weather. I actually tried getting through the recap, and halfway through, my voice just gave out. You may see me have to take a sip of water here every so often to get through this one as well. I might not be as energetic as I normally am, but there's a lot to go over. So the first thing that we found out on yesterday's daily was that Hope and Renee ended up being nominated. How that came to be was Santina won the safety vote, and then we also found out that Nene won the veto. It's funny because this was kind of like the worst case scenario that we kind of talked about in the last update, was if Santina wins safety and then somehow Nene wins veto, it really messes up everything. And then what would Ty do? What are his options left for who he would renom? Could it be Claudia? Could it be Anika? Would he have to put up Jonathan? Well, that's kind of all of what the conversations were today. We had a small chat with Kuzi and John where they were talking about trying to get Nene to keep the noms the same and not have her take Renee off the block. We then ended up getting Claudia and Nene. Claudia saying she hopes that Hope is leaving. Says she knows that Hope leaving is best for her game, but Ty, with the way he pushes his moves, it makes her like not want to do it, right? Like he wants Renee to go and he wants the noms to stay the same, but the way Ty pushes it on her, she like almost is like, I don't want to do this. Like the fact that you're pushing it that hard makes me want to go the opposite way, which is something we've talked about a lot on this season, is people giving almost ultimatums to people. Kuzi's done it, Ty's done it, Zach did it. It's just not really the thing that you want to do in this game ever, is make someone feel like, oh, if you're not with me, you're against me. And if you don't do it my way, like you're out. That's not how you want to play this game. It just really isn't. You want to try and make sure everyone is feeling included in the decisions and part of the decision-making process so they don't drift away and go against you later on. Claudia says that, you know, the girly pops, her, Renee and Nene, they can try and pull in Daniel, John, and Santina, and that could be like a nice little group if they all kind of come together. Ty doesn't want her to use it, obviously, Nene, and the way he was telling her not to use it was basically by threatening her, saying you're going to be the target. Right? You're going to put you and Renee, Nene and Renee, you're going to end up putting yourselves on an island that the whole house is against. But Nene says, like, I'm using it. Like, I'm using the veto. There's just no reason for me not to use the veto. Here's another interesting thing in this. The only reason that Nene is in this position where she has the veto at all is because Ty picked her with his houseguests choice. So why he picked her, I have no idea. Now, normally in like BBUS, if you get houseguest choice, you either want to pick one of two things. Someone super weak that you know you can beat in the competition and then you have the power because you get to play as the HOH. Or you want to pick someone who you know is on your side, and if they win, they'll do something similar to you. But in BBCan, since the HOH doesn't get to play, you really just want to pick people that you know will do what you want with the veto. Doesn't matter if you think they're strong or weak or not. In fact, even picking a weak player just gives the nominees more of a chance to win. So you almost want to pick a strong player that you know will probably keep the nominations the same. So by him picking Nene, he's not only picking someone that he thinks is a weak player, but also someone who would do the exact thing he doesn't want in using the veto on Renee. Now, his theory behind all this was it was a way for him to kind of test the trust with Nene, and he even ended up talking about it on today's daily, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But hell, it was like, if he did it now, it's better than if he did it later and she burned him. It was dumb. It was just a dumb move from Ty to do this. Now, they think John could go up, and that would be bad, right? But they would probably end up wanting to keep him. And the worst case scenario would be if Claudia were to be the one to put up, and that would have just been a wild scenario if Ty ended up putting Claudia on the block. But that could have been a really good way for them to keep John off. If the Crown and Ty wanted Nene not to use the veto, probably the best argument they would have had was, hey, Nene, if you take Renee off the block, he's putting Claudia up, and Claudia would probably go. So that would have been a way they could have maybe had Nene not use the veto, but there was almost no way she wasn't going to use it. Eventually, Renee joined this conversation. We also found that Hope pretty much offered himself up to go on the block again. So it was more, they weren't sure 100% if he offered or if he was just asked because Santina was safe. There was more talk about, the way things could go and how they're going right now with, possibly being John put on the block, how the house would see that. And then some interesting convos about what their future plans would be, right? So they talk about like if there is a double or a triple, which by the way, a lot of them are kind of speculating that this could be a double coming up. It's probably not, or that a triple is going to be coming up or something like that. This week, it's probably not happening. And there is a lot of conversation on, can it even happen anymore? Because we had, 2 people walk that shouldn't have. We should have 2 more house guests in there. And technically a third one who walked, but that was going to be an eviction anyway, so you really don't have to minus that from a week. But we're down 2 players from where we should be in the season. And does the timing match up? Well, currently we have 10 players left in the house. Finale is supposed to be, let me check the calendar here again. It's supposed to be sometime between the 11th to the 14th weekend. So I imagine the 11th would be the finale date, right? Like that Thursday would be the last episode of the show. So we would have, 1, 2, 3, 4 evictions, including this week, to go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 evictions, including this week, to go, and 10 players left. On finale night, there will be 3 players left. So you have, 7 people to get out in 5 weeks? That seems like there's time to do a double or potentially even a triple. When it will happen, probably not this week. There's potential that it could happen next week. There's also potential they could do some kind of like fake double and then a real double. We don't know exactly what all the plans are, but I wouldn't discount that not happening at some point. But their plan would be if any of the girly pops were to win HOH in the double, first they were like, well, maybe Kuzi and Anika should go up, and then Ty would be the back door. But then they kind of land on a really good option, I think, is Ty and Kuzi up together, because then neither of them could save each other, and one of them would be guaranteed to go. After that, we ended up getting Hope and Daniel having a little convo. Hope says, Ty said if Renee comes down, it would be John that goes up. And Daniel wasn't 100% convinced of that, says like, he thinks it might be more likely that it could be him or Anika going up there too. And this is also where Hope says, he's like, I shouldn't have put myself up there. I shouldn't have done it. Daniel's like, I've been telling you this. Not for weeks now. And again, Daniel says he might not risk John going up versus Hope because the girls might keep John, which it seems like could potentially be a way things are going here. And then there was talk about, trying to talk Nene out of using it, but it was never going to happen. She was always going to use the veto. And Hope thinks that Santina and Renee would keep him over John. He thinks that he could possibly get the 2 of them to keep him if they end up on the block with each other. Now, eventually John joins the conversation. And then they talk about if it's used, John's probably going up. Again, Daniel kind of says like he thinks it might be him or Anika that's used on. But they just couldn't believe Ty didn't pick one of them to play in the veto over picking Nene, and how dumb of a decision that really was. Then we get Ty and Nene having a conversation in the HOH room. Basically, this is Ty trying to convince her not to use it. She says, I'm going to use it on Renee because, you know, she's close to me, and how would that rest of the house view her if she didn't use it on someone that was that close to her? And they would probably look down on her if she didn't. He tells her that people would actually see that as putting a target on her and Renee more, so that would be worse for your game if you keep them. And that Renee kind of holds her back from working with others because they don't trust her, because they don't trust Renee. And it would be best if she didn't use it and let Renee campaign, because Renee's really good at campaigning and she'll stay if she just campaigns. Hope can go and work with them. Because he will have to like rebuild relationships if he has to put Jonathan or somebody else up on the block. So if he does this, it's them kind of going against him and the rest of the house, and then he would have to go against them. It was really just awkward and not a great conversation and pitch from Ty. But I don't expect anything other from Ty as far as his pitches go. He usually just tries to push his agenda, but do that thing where he's like, I mean, you can do what you want, but you'll be against me. But I'm not trying to pressure you, but you'll be my target. But I don't want things to go bad, but you're going to be in a bad spot if you do this. And it's just a weird way that he likes to communicate. And then we ended up getting our last conversation for yesterday's daily, which was Kuzi and Santina, and they just kind of talk about, you know, what was supposed to happen, how Santina winning the safety really messed up everything for Ty, and now what will happen, and they think that Jonathan could likely go up. Kuzi even says, like, she could see herself going up, and they talk about how they should kind of regroup after the veto and kind of figure out how things should work out, that they're probably on the same page on a lot of the things. And this is the thing where I think Kuzi might have messed up here. I don't think she should have said this. She basically was saying how she feels like she has pull in this house with some people, and they'll probably listen to her, but they won't listen to Santina. And I feel like if I was Santina and I'm hearing that, I'm basically hearing, okay, so yeah, you have relationships in this house that you feel like you can leverage. I should be watching out for that. You are someone that is not someone I should work with, but someone I should be targeting. But again, it's hard to know what people are thinking in this house. A lot of them don't necessarily think exactly like they should in this game, but we'll see how that all goes. And they talk about how, actually, funny enough, they end up talking about that, how the house is playing more of a personal game, not really a strategic one, and that at the end, the jury probably would be bitter at someone like Ty. They wouldn't see like, oh, like he got me out and he did this. They would think it was like, oh, I didn't like how he played and stuff like that. But yeah, it does sound like they're kind of on the same page. But again, this could just be them kind of placating each other, making each other kind of feel good. And with Kuzi, she would want to pull Santina in because the crown is going to be losing a number no matter what here, it seems like, because it seems like Jonathan will be the one going up on the block. Claudia probably won't be going up, so Santina can't. So it would seem like she was just trying to pull Santina in so that she doesn't end up going with the girly pops more than she would end up being with their side. Now, that takes us to today's daily. And yes, Nene did use the veto. Jonathan was put up as the replacement. So now it's a conversation of who stays, Hope or Jonathan. The first conversation that we got from the dailies, I really wish they wouldn't have cut, because it was the girlies, Pops, and Santina, and it was them kind of finishing up their conversation where she was like, all right, let me get out of here so they don't all think we're working together. And Santina leaves. After she leaves, the little convo that the girls had, they were like, I think this could work, right? Like, the four of us can kind of stick together, and you know, I can't believe that she was told that, you know, she was our target. Like, so it seems like it was all about a game talk about Santina saying, hey, the four of us can vote together, keep Jonathan. We'll have Jonathan on our side. And I assume they were probably even thinking like, hey, we can get Daniel in. We can potentially get that kind of as like a new 5-person group to all go against Ty, Kuzi, and Anika. But we'll see how that all kind of plays out. But again, I wish we had gotten more of that conversation, because I think it would have given us a little bit more insight on where Santina stands. We then ended up getting a convo with John and Kuzi, but it was really just more about like, you know, he doesn't want to campaign against Hope, but for himself, and just how it's a difficult position and spot to be in right now. There wasn't really a lot you could take from this, because anytime you have someone talking to the nominee, for the most part, they're just going to tell them what they want to hear, right? So you really can't say for sure which way Kuzi's leaning, because she also has a conversation with Hope later, where she kind of does the same thing and just kind of gives him advice on how to do well. We did get Jonathan and Santina. Also, again, you can never really tell when you're talking to one of the nominees on these things, because they're just going to tell them what they want to hear. But she does fill him in that she just had a conversation with the girls and they seem like they're going to vote for him. So that does make Jonathan feel pretty good that he's got some good numbers behind him. And then we got probably the longest conversation from this drop was Claudia and Ty. And it not only was the longest conversation, it was the most awkward conversation. Because, you know, they're talking to each other about how like they don't want to go against each other, and how like he's like you got to play your own game, and he gets that. So if you have to, like, he understands, and it won't affect like how he feels about her, but like also at the same time like saying it would affect how he feels about her. He goes and like works out in the middle of it and gets like a pump in, like, and he comes back, he's like, sorry, I'm out of breath. It's like, bro, you were pumping just the bar. You didn't even have plates on the thing. You were just pumping the bar and you're all out of breath. Like, chill, bro. Chill, dude. But he was also dripping wet because he came from the hot tub. So like there was like a pool of water and he had to put the towel down to like sit on the couch next to her. And again, it was more of that, like, I don't want to force you to do what I want, but you will be going against me. So it's kind of like you're forcing. And how the three of them, you know, Renee, Claudia, and Santina, not Santina, Shania, they all kind of pissed off the rest of the house by doing what they did, and that's on them. But the two of them, you know, don't have to be rocky because of that. And they were talking about separating game and personal. It was just a really awkward conversation with Claudia just being like, I almost don't want to be here. This is like the worst. And like she put him in a tough spot, and she keep saying like, you know, what about like if it was you having to choose between me and Zach? Like that's kind of what you're doing to me here. And what you did with Renee. And he's like, oh, well, you know, where's Zach? Zach's not here. He's like, I told you this would happen. Ty, yeah, but you also are the one who did this, right? Ty's smarter move would have been to work with the girls. But the reason he didn't work with the girls is because he views them as weak players, right? So that's his own fault. He could have had numbers to go against the other side, but he doesn't even see that Kuzi and Daniel, Anika, Hope, they all would take shots at him in a heartbeat. So Ty's just completely blind to all of that. We then ended up getting John and Anika, and again, anytime you have a conversation with the nominee, it's hard to really know exactly what they're thinking, but she does tell him, hey, spend more time with Santina, because that's kind of the vote you're going to need. They tried really hard to not have Nene use it, but she messed everything up. And, you know, she wants him to stay. Try and get the girls to feel guilty that they used the veto, and that's why he's on the block. She says how, like, they don't like Hope anyway, but Ty will try and get in their heads. From that, you would think maybe Anika does want John to stay, but again, you can never trust when they're talking to the nominee because they're just going to tell them what they want. We then get Ty and Hope, and this is where he says the girls, meaning the girly pops, Renee, Nene, and Claudia are just stupid, and he says after this week, they're all dead to me, so he's like, if you have to throw me under the block to work with them, like, do it, like, I don't care, like, do what you have to do. Then it was kind of funny because it flipped back and forth here between that convo and the girly pops, and Claudia's filling them in on the awkward conversation with Ty, and she pretty much tells them exactly what I was telling you, how ridiculous it was. He was soaking wet. He was like working out in the middle of it. They were all laughing about it. And while that's happening, like I said, we were bouncing back and forth with Ty and Hope saying how dumb they are and how he doesn't want to work with them anymore. And you have to make sure like you try and get them to vote for you. He says how he thinks he can get Claudia like to do him this favor to vote to keep Hope this week. But the girls want Hope out. Like they want to vote to keep Jonathan. We then ended up getting Kuzi and Hope again. Same deal, right? Like because Hope is one of the nominees, you can't trust this conversation that much. But this was also something that Ty told Hope to do, was go talk to Kuzi, which he kind of relays to her. He's like, yeah, you told me to come up here and talk to you. He even told me like to throw him under the bus if I had to. And they talk about what he should do with the girls, and how he can go to them and say like, you know, Ty wants them here, but he's just using me as a puppet, right? Like he'll always hold the letter over you and stuff like that. And you know, how Hope would want Ty to go and how he could hopefully use that to his advantage. And then he thinks that he has Santina's vote and the crown, but then the girls would probably vote to keep Jonathan. And then the last conversation we ended up getting was Ty and Claudia. And this was, again, just Ty trying to get Claudia on his side to make sure she votes to keep Hope, saying how Hope is someone that we can get out whenever we want. Jonathan has way too many connections in the house, which he is right about. Jonathan has more connections than Hope does. But Claudia comes back with some good rebuttals, right? She's like, yeah, but Hope's also shown he's the bigger comp threat, which Ty tries to downplay, saying he hasn't done it on his own, which part of that is Ty and Zach both kind of are going with the narrative that the veto that Hope won, they threw to him. So Hope's won 2 vetoes now, and basically he's discrediting one of them because he threw it to him. It's a thing. Claudia also says, you know, Hope does have connections too, right? Like Hope has, you know, a better connection with Daniel, Anika, and Kuzi. So like that's like a foursome over on that side. And, you know, because he's close with them, she doesn't know who he would target if he stays, which again would lead to, if he's close with them and not with us, he'd probably target the girly pops, which wouldn't be what they would want in the game. It was just kind of back and forth with Ty trying to get her to do what he wants. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Because, again, let's like pull up our little alliance chart here. I've made a few little changes to it. But for the most part, you've got the crown in the middle, right? I don't know where Anika, Kuzi, and Daniel's votes are going to go. For the Shady Bunch, they could vote for Hope, right? And keep Hope around because they think Jonathan obviously is the bigger target and the more of a threat to win. So it would make sense to get him out. But if they don't think they have Santina's vote, it wouldn't be smart for them to vote against Jonathan if Jonathan's going to stay. Hope also, they might be telling him, hey, you're good and like we got your back and like you just have to get Santina, because they don't want Hope to freak out. Because if Hope freaks out and thinks they're voting against him, he could blow up a lot of games because of the whole crown situation. So I could see them just kind of being like, hey, Hope, like, don't worry, like, we got you, like, Santina's got you, just try and get some of the girls if you can, so it's not close. So I could potentially right now see it being either a 4-3 vote for Jonathan to stay, because I think Santina is leading Jonathan. The girls 100% are leaning Jonathan. And then it would be up to Anika, Kuzi, and Daniel on where they would want to vote. If they vote for Hope, that's not enough. You need 4. And if they realize that they probably don't have Santina's vote, I would think they would just hop onto the vote with Jonathan. It would be kind of a blindside on Hope because they'll just keep telling him like, yeah, you got our vote, because they don't want him to freak out and spill a lot of information. So it's going to be kind of an interesting week to see how this all goes. What do you guys think? Let me know in those comments down below. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button. hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. There is an episode tonight. I'll have a recap for that episode tomorrow, as well as any digital daily that we'll get throughout the day. And those will be the ones that are interesting. In these next few dailies, do we get a conversation with Anika, Kuzi, and Daniel? Because I want to know where their heads are at when it comes to this vote. And even then, even if we get a definitive answer on whether or not they want to vote for Hope, if they say, yeah, we're going to vote for Hope, it's still up to Santina. Santina is this huge swing vote in all this. And I would think she would lean towards Jonathan. Jonathan was the one she told that she won a visible HOH with. She did eventually tell Hope, but that was only because Jonathan told her she could trust him. So it seemed like at least last week, she trusted Jonathan more than Hope. But things change quickly in that house. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what conversations we get on these dailies, what will happen on the episodes tonight and tomorrow before we get to eviction night. But yeah, thank you guys for watching so much. I appreciate each and every one of you for sticking through me, even with how sick I am feeling at the moment. Thank you guys again for watching. Links to all my socials are in the description down below. My Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, the Kick channel. Go follow the Kick. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time.